All right, so Nosferatu came out recently. I just saw it. I'm going to go see it a second time before I do an in depth overall review of the movie. But this video, I want to talk about the theme that I took because there's a lot of different themes that people got from this movie, and they're interesting to listen to. But this one is just the one that I vibed with the most. I believe this was a very good subtext and metaphor for an energy vampire and a narcissist. So this is what I'm going to call an if you know, you know spoiler, because I'm not going to give a summary, but I am going to, frame how I got this conclusion. Now, what is something that a vampire or a narcissist usually goes after? Someone who feels quite ostracized, someone who's very vulnerable, someone who doesn't feel like they fit in. And that's the case with this main character, Ellen. In the beginning, she's super lonely, so she calls out for anything, and that kind of is how a narcissist or a vampire gets somebody, is someone is just hungry for any sort of a lifeline. Anyone who's dealt with one of those types of people knows this. Someone who's very lonely, ostracized, doesn't feel like they fit in. Obviously, she is married, but even still, she just doesn't feel like she belongs there. It's even spelt out in the script that, it's like she just isn't for the time, or she just doesn't fit in with people. That's a big theme. But meanwhile, you have Count Orlok, aka the narcissist or the vampire in this scenario, basically telling her that you are not for these people, you're not for this time. You have like 3 nights to come to me. A very good text on what that kind of isolation goal would be like, how a narcissist gets into someone who's lonely's life and trying to convince them that they're the only one that they need. They try to isolate them, and that's what a lot of the talking was about. So overall, it's a really perfect framing for how these kinds of things take place. But, the movie plays out the way it does. If you know the ending, you know the ending. But let's say it didn't end the way it did, and Nosferatu, or aka Count Orlok, continues to go on. Would he move on to his next victim and then get in their mind like that? Be able to say, yeah, no, it's just me and you, because when a narcissist discards their target, they usually move on to the next. Would they have pulled a similar style of wool over the next person's eyes and said, it's just you and me, you don't fit in, everything like that? Or was Ellen really that special? I honestly doubt it, because if you have an eternal being, just waiting for someone to cry out, I don't think that necessarily he chose Ellen because it's Ellen. I think he chose Ellen because, well, she just felt lost. She felt alone, and she felt like she needed any sort of a lifeline. That's all up for personal interpretation. I honestly think he would have moved on to the next person had he gotten away. But where am I going with this, or how could I integrate this lesson into my life? Because like I said, these types of people always will go after the people that are lonely and vulnerable. And there's a lot of lonely and vulnerable people out in modern times with social media. Everyone's kind of hyper individualistic. Everyone's all about me, all themselves. It just seems like we are in the dark ages of socialization, and basically a gold mine for people who would be considered energy vampires or narcissists to prey on all kinds of people. And this wrap up does go out to the people who are kind of vulnerable or don't really have a sense of their true self or feel lost. The unfortunate news to add to the uphill battle, and I've been there, man, especially in my early 20s. I've been there, and I've attracted a few of those types of people, and I've had to kick a lot of people out. But when you're like that, you will attract some people like that. And I think it's up to you to think, is it better to be alone or to just be with anybody, especially someone who is manipulative and will get you to eventually doubt your own abilities in life? Because I also see a whole lot of self-doubt when it comes to people who are very authentic and mean well. I guess you could say I wonder where the correlation lies. I mean, that's a bit of a sarcastic remark, but it makes sense when you look at the bigger picture. But I think sometimes the best way to avoid a vampire overall or a narcissist is just not to invite them in. Completely don't even acknowledge them, completely don't pay attention to them, because that's one of the big things about vampire lore is in order to, have them come into your house, you do have to invite them in. It has to be consensual, and then they do what they do. And I'm not saying don't trust anybody, especially if someone respects your boundaries or is really nice or means well. I definitely think that you should let the right people in, because then you're going to overcome what the narcissist doesn't want you to overcome, a sense of self and who you are, so that way they can lose one more victim potentially. It's about a healthy dose of keeping your guard up. But that is what I got to say. I thought that this was a great movie. I'm definitely going to go see it a second time. I recommend people who are of age to go see this movie goes to see it the first time. But when you do, don't just take this into consideration, like this interpretation of the movie, but also try to come up with your own, because I'm seeing a lot of different videos about their interpretations of this film. And what can I say? It's really nice to listen to other points of views. But happy watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out, and stay true to yourself. Later.